stories fade with time, buried beneath silence, lost in forgotten files, or dismissed as mysteries that will never be solved. But behind every case is a voice that was never heard, a truth still waiting in the dark. This channel is dedicated to the victims, the unanswered questions, and the stories that refuse to disappear. Because somewhere, someone still knows what happened. Welcome to Cries Unheard in the Darkness. On a crisp spring night in 2006, the South Campus Gateway in Columbus, Ohio, was electric. Classes at Ohio State were out for spring break, and the air was thick with the scent of cheap beer and newfound freedom. 27-year-old Brian Shaffer, a bright, handsome second-year medical student, was right in the middle of it. He was seen on camera at 1:55 a.m., standing outside the Ugly Tuna Saloona, chatting with two women. He waved goodbye and stepped back toward the bar's entrance. The bar closed at 2 a.m. Hundreds of people filed out. But Brian Shaffer wasn't one of them. He didn't just leave the bar. He seemingly vanished from the face of the earth. Brian wasn't a reckless kid. He was a microbiology graduate pursuing his MD, but his life wasn't all textbooks. He was a massive fan of Pearl Jam and Jimmy Buffett, a man who dreamed of trading his white coat for a guitar and a beach in the Virgin Islands. However, tragedy had recently struck. Just weeks before he vanished, Brian lost his mother, Renee, to cancer. His friends said he was holding it together, but the grief was heavy. He was planning a trip to Miami with his girlfriend, Alexis Wagoner, where many believed he was going to propose. On the night of March 31st, Brian went out with his friend, William Clint Florence, to celebrate the start of break. A night that began with a steak dinner with his father, Randy, and ended in a mystery that would haunt Columbus for decades. After bar hopping through the Arena District, Brian, Clint, and a friend named Meredith Reed returned to the Ugly Tuna for one last round. At 1:55 a.m., security footage captures Brian on the escalator, then outside the bar entrance. He's talking to two women, looking relaxed. He moves off camera, presumably back into the bar. When the lights came up at 2 a.m., Clint and Meredith waited. The crowd thinned. No Brian. They assumed he had slipped out another way or walked the 6 blocks home. But when Monday morning rolled around and Brian missed his flight to Miami, the maybe he's sleeping it off excuse turned into a full-blown missing persons case. The Columbus police treated this case with immediate intensity. They searched the Ugly Tuna top to bottom. The bar was on the 2nd floor, with only one public entrance, the escalator, monitored by a camera. Investigators reviewed the footage thousands of times. One investigator, Andre Edwards, later stated with 100% certainty that Brian Shaffer did not leave via that escalator. This left only a service exit leading into a confusing construction zone. Some officers believed it would have been nearly impossible for an intoxicated person to navigate that area without being caught on nearby street cameras. Then there's the human element. Clint Florence refused a polygraph test. This created a rift that lasts to this day. Brian's brother, Derek, and even Alexis Wagoner have expressed frustration over Clint's lack of cooperation. Clint's lawyer, Neil Rosenberg, eventually sent a letter to a private investigator suggesting that police believed Brian was still alive and that it was Brian himself causing his family pain by staying hidden. In September 2006, Alexis called Brian's phone. It rang 3 times. A ping was detected near Hilliard, 14 miles away, but it led nowhere. Then came the cruelest blow. 2 years later, Brian's father, Randy, was killed when a tree branch struck him during a storm. An online condolence book later featured a post signed, "To Dad, love Brian, U.S. Virgin Islands." It was a hoax traced to a public computer in Franklin County. Even as the years turned into a decade, tips continued to trickle in, about 2 a month. In 2019, an image of a homeless man in Tijuana, Mexico, went viral due to his striking resemblance to Brian. The FBI conducted facial recognition analysis, but the results were heartbreaking. It was not him. Brian's story didn't just end as a cold case file. Before his death, Randy Shaffer worked tirelessly with other families of the missing to lobby the state legislature. Because of their efforts, a law was passed establishing a statewide protocol for adult missing persons cases, ensuring no other family would be left to the whims of individual department policies. In 2021, the Ohio Bureau of Criminal Investigation released an age-progressed image of what Brian would look like at 42. Whether he is living a new life under a tropical sun, or his story ended in the shadows of that construction site, the man who walked into the Ugly Tuna remains one of the most baffling disappearances in Ohio history. If you have any information regarding the case Brian Shaffer, please contact the Columbus Police Department. Thanks for listening to Cries, Unheard in the Darkness. If this story stayed with you, you're not alone. Subscribe, because the darkness always has more to say. Until next time, listen carefully.